Hey everyone, I'm George Edelman from MovieWeb, and today we are analyzing Sheldon in 6 minutes or less. Sheldon's character is complex, and in many ways, we don't know exactly what makes him tick when we first meet him, but over the course of the series, we learn that Sheldon comes from a Texas small town. His father was a football coach, his mother was a devout, religious individual. He had a twin sister and an older brother, and they both ganged up on him and bullied him a lot. Ostracized all his life and graduating college at the age of 14, Sheldon definitely, in addition to having superior intellect, comes with some serious baggage. Part of it is that he experiences the world in extremely complex ways. Many people have theorized that he likely has some form of autism and obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. Now, these are things that happen when your inputs from the world and your interactions with them don't quite align with the way everybody else does, and it just makes it harder for Sheldon to interact in a way that others would deem as normal. Now, he insists that he is not crazy and that his mother had him tested, but that really doesn't preclude the fact that he might lean into some of these unique character traits, personality disorders, or just have generally a difficult time interacting with other people in the world. Sheldon Cooper's story begins as we meet him as an adult. He's a theoretical physicist, and he lives with his roommate, Leonard. Sheldon is, even among his circle of incredibly smart, nerdy friends, the smartest in his opinion, and he looks down on everyone, especially Penny, who is the catalyst for the series' drama when she moves across the hall. Sheldon develops a bond with Penny over time, but it is immediately oil and water. They do not get along. He has a hard time seeing anybody who's just of regular intellect as his equal or anything close to it. So Sheldon Cooper's biggest issue is that he cannot really have close relationships. The ones he has with his friends are definitely at arm's length, and he is constantly making it harder for them to get close to him. Sheldon truly tries to embody his favorite character, Mr. Spock from Star Trek. Spock is famously emotionless, attachmentless, all logic, cannot be close to anyone, cannot have relationships. And so for a very long time in the series, or at least for the first few seasons, it seemed impossible that Sheldon would have any kind of romantic involvement with anyone. There were questions about his sexual identity or preference, and even the show's creators would often say, "We don't think he has one, this is never going to be an issue." But interestingly enough, Sheldon the character took on a life of his own, and he forced their hand. At some point in this series, he comes across Amy, a character who is sort of suited to the type of relationship Sheldon wants. Amy and Sheldon connect mainly because they both don't want a physical or sexual relationship. He calls her his friend, who is a girl, not his girlfriend. And this is a critical piece of how Sheldon starts to open up to people. This dynamic, as it's introduced in the series, almost teaches the writers, and something happens on the show in the course of its many seasons where the writers start to follow Sheldon a little bit in his own direction. So like any good writers, when the writers behind The Big Bang Theory saw the direction Sheldon was going in and what this Amy character introduces, they went full speed ahead into the conflict, not just for the drama, but obviously because it's a sitcom, for the comedy potential. What happened with Sheldon is once he starts to feel jealousy about Amy, they have their first kiss. Once Amy seems like she might leave him forever and it's just not gonna work, they actually have sex. So all the things that weren't gonna happen end up happening, and they're happy. Alongside this, Sheldon becomes a much better friend. He starts being closer to the people around him, he starts accepting them, he stops looking down his nose at them in quite as extreme a manner, and so it's all part of his character growth. The person he was at the beginning of the show is so different than the person who he is at the very end, to the degree that they're actually planning to have kids by the end of the series. And when we get to the spinoff, young Sheldon, in his voiceover at the beginning, he talks about how they've had kids already. So this is the complete arc from this character who sat outside of every traditional sense of family or relationships or structure, and by the end of it, he is so smack dab in the middle of those things, it couldn't be any more traditional and normal. And it's fascinating that they pulled it off, and it took them 9 seasons, but they did it. The most interesting thing about it, though, is that Sheldon represents an idea that no matter how different you might be, there's someone for you, there's a path towards happiness, and you don't have to live completely outside of society. You can find your way forward in it in a way that is rewarding and makes you happy. So if we're gonna take a positive note from it all, that would probably be it. As for what I think of the Big Bang Theory, we did another video all about the Big Bang Theory and whether or not the series itself is good or bad. Be sure to check that one out. Please like, rate, and subscribe, and stick around. We are analyzing all kinds of characters all the time. We're getting pretty deep into what makes them tick and why they work, or sometimes why they don't. Thanks so much for watching.